Hello everyone. Welcome to this tutorial on Python Basics. Today we're going to discuss choosing the right IDE or code editor. So let's discuss about the basic agendas in this tutorial. So the basic agendas we have to discuss in this tutorial are: what is an IDE and why should we basically care about it? Which IDE suits best for your environment? And then we're going to discuss about Vim. We will try it out a little. And then we will talk about Atom Editor. Let's talk about IDE. IDE actually stands for Integrated Development Environment. In most cases, when you're typing some sort of code or doing programming in Python, you are not actually going to always run some interpreter like we just did. We actually have to do a lot of other things as well. You must do all those things like debugging the code and doing profiling of the code. And apart from that, doing source code reduction, refactorization, or source code management. We actually need a lot of tools, and that cannot be done using this Python interpreter. So it's pretty obvious we will have to switch to some IDE. Actually, there are lots of IDEs available for Python, and that suits them very well as well. So if I say IDE, we basically mean an environment where you can actually code and do lots of other stuff as well. For example, you might or might not have a tutorial. You might or might not have an integration of a source code managing system. And apart from that, there could be lots of things which we are going to have to look at right now. Let's talk about the first editor called Vim. Vim is actually a command line editor, and I have just opened the page of this Vim. As you can see, Vim is an advanced text editor as the code to provide the power of the de facto Unix editor VI. Actually, it's a pretty hardcore editor, and it's basically used by hard code programmers who are very efficient with command line in Linux. And just for the sake of post-completion, I'm mentioning this editor. Let's try it out. Actually, I already have installed Vim in my system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start this. So here it is. What we heard about this editor is, at no point are you going to actually interact using your mouse, because it's actually command line. Whatever interaction we're going to have over here is basically done using command line. So let's just say I want to write a simple text file. Now, if I want to enter some text, I would have to first of all hit I. Now I'm in insert. Now I can insert anything. Let's say this is a sample text. However, I'm writing a simple text over here, but actually you'll be typing in a lot of Python codes. So now how do we save it? Obviously there is no mouse. So what we do is we press escape, and since, as you can see from the bottom left, the insert keyword is gone. So now we are in command mode. What we're going to do is use W and name the file as sample.txt. And hit enter. So as you can see, the message, the sample.txt, has been entered. Now if you want to quit this editor, we again have to make sure that we are in the command mode. You might want to just press it a couple of times just to make sure that you're in command mode. So now if you want to type Q for quick, and here we are. Let's see if there's any file called sample.txt created or not. As a matter of fact, there is a file called sample.txt, which has been created. We cannot open this file using Vim again. And we can again press I. Which opens the insert mode of this editor. Now we can edit some more text. Now, since the name has already been defined, we just have to go over here and type W. W actually does the saving part. Now, what we want to do is we want to immediately quit as well. So what we're going to do is just append the Q along with it and hit enter. Now, if we try to see the text of this file, We can actually see that our extra text has been added over here. But this is pretty tedious. Nobody actually wants to go for a long subroutine programming in Vim Editor. Actually, most of them do, but they're basically C programmers developing core module for Linux or doing some other daunting task. Most of the time, if you ever see Vim on anybody's screen, he might not be that much of a geek. He might be just trying to schedule away because it's pretty daunting for the beginner. So now let's see another text editor, the Atom editor. The Atom editor is a pretty convenient editor. It's hackable. Hackable in the sense you can modify it, not in the sense that you can hack through it, right? So yeah, exactly. There's no one going to give the editor which has been specifically modified to hack into someone's system. So hackable here means that you can modify it to the extent that you want. And it's pretty neat. And that's what I'm using over here. And I prefer it. My preference could have been Sublime Text, which is also pretty nice and fast as well. But it has to be bought. If you're okay with it, then you can go ahead and download the Sublime Text 3 and try it out. However, I won't suggest or support in any way to download software and apply a crack on it or use cracked versions, because that always creates problems. So let's see what we can have now. This PyCharm is pretty popular, and we cannot leave this area without discussing it, because most of the programmers use PyCharm in their projects. I would suggest if you have a fairly good knowledge of Python, you can even try PyCharm IDE. It does have lots of features like source code management integration. It has a debugging feature. It has a profiling feature and lots of other features as well. We can try out the difference in a moment. And you can, in a moment, in the sense to Python environments. We will discuss about it later on. But there's a feature in this PyCharm through which you can switch amongst the Python environments. However, this is not very common with other IDEs. There is IntelliSense and lots of things. There could be yet another option, which is not very popular, but still most people go with it. It's installing an Eclipse IDE and then installing PyDev over it, which gives a pretty neat edge, and you can try that as well. But if you're not a very big fan of heavy IDEs, you can either go for Atom, Vim, or maybe Sublime Text, just in case you're ready to pay for it. Believe me, it's worth it. Anyway, let's try out Atom. Let's close everything. And as you can see that when there is no code in the front panel, it actually sort of gives you a suggestion for opening different kinds of things. Now let's create our first site, or maybe first Python code over here. New file, and if we save it, let's save it as first.py. However, it's not our first code we have written in Python. Hello world. So you can see the syntax writing is over there. So let's try to do a couple of more things. I just hit Control with comma, and it opens the settings window. You can actually check out the packages over here. There are lots of packages, installed ones. There are actually 75. Community packages? There are none so far. Let's try adding some packages. Minimap is a pretty nice package, so to install the package, you have to go to the Install option and search out for Minimap. So it's searching for it, and you can see this Minimap. It actually sort of gives you a preview of the full source code on the right portion over here. So there are some errors. Could be some system-specific errors, but usually most work out. Let's try another package, Minimap Find and Replace. So it's downloading over here. Meanwhile, let's move to other features as well. Through settings, we can do a lot of things. For example, we can set the font over here. We can make it smaller or bigger. We can actually set the scroll sensitivity over here, preferred 9. Whenever you're writing code, after how many characters the new line starts, you can set that over here. And lots of other things. You might want to explore that by yourself. But as per my suggestion, if you're not going for Sublime Text, you must go for this Atom editor, surely. So moving on to our next agenda, trying out Vim. We learn a couple of commands, and if you want to try it out more, you can find lots of blogs out there. Follow them. And lots of other features are there which are pretty nice and can speed up your processing entirely. But it's not a very good choice in the case of doing group projects and other things, you know. But if you're doing a solo sort of thing, you can actually go for it, unless you're not scared with command line editing in all and commands. Trying out Atom, actually, like we just did. So if you want to explore it further, you can go ahead. So this is all about editor selection. We tried out Vim, we tried out Atom Editor, and in our next tutorial, we are actually going to write our first Python code and run it under different environments.